Welcome to the Kingdom Business Leadership Podcast. You are listening to season number 2, episode number 9 of the show. In this episode, we will be discussing building a legacy in our lives. Continue listening to hear more.
Have you ever wanted to monetize your knowledge, skills, and expertise to fulfill your God-given purpose? The Kingdom Business Leadership Podcast helps you to use tools and strategies to partner with God in your business and act on His voice for your business breakthrough, development, and success, so God can truly be your CEO. This is the Kingdom Business Leadership Podcast. Here's your host and partner in purpose, Dr. Andrea Hart.
Hey everyone, Dr. Andrea here, and we are back again for another episode. Last episode, we talked about legacy and we talked about impact, using your voice to make an eternal impact, talking about how your voice is part of your platform and how your voice is seen in each part of your business and or ministry platform. So definitely, if you missed that episode, go on back so you can listen to that. We are building on that same concept in that we're talking about legacy. And legacy is so very important in all of our lives, but especially if you're a Christian, a kingdom business person, and ministry leader, we have to have an understanding that we actually serve a God of legacy. So when we're talking about legacy, I always like to define my terms because so many people can believe so many different things. But when we're talking about legacy, what I think of and the sense that I get from that word is that it means leaving an inheritance for those that come after you. So that's a very, very simple definition. But at times, we don't think through legacy in regards to some of the things that we're doing. Even as a young person, we don't think that the actions that we take, that they're going to have repercussions and there's going to be something that happens as a result of the actions that we have taken. But God, He thinks legacy, He lives legacy, He acts in legacy. We know that He even says in His scripture, Proverbs 13 and verse 22, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. So that's speaking of generations. We even see legacy in the way that God Himself just formalized the world. We see legacy when we look at the genealogy of Jesus and Abraham, Sarah, all the different patriarchs and matriarchs that we see in the Word of God, that God had a plan from the beginning. And there's different things that can come through legacy, which we're going to talk about today. But we need to think, God thinks legacy, and we need to have the mind of Christ. So we need to think legacy as well. So marrying that to what we are talking about on this particular platform, Kingdom Business, have you ever thought more about just you pertaining to your platform? Whatever your platform may be, maybe you're a ministry leader, you have a church, maybe you have a para-ministry, or street ministry, any type of ministry. Maybe you have a business. You should have a business if you're listening to this particular podcast. But in your business, you have to realize that everything you do with those different platforms are building legacy. We have to think past, we're just doing this for ourselves. We're just doing this to make money in the here and now. We have to create and formalize the organizations that we run to a point and to a place where we're building legacy. So after we're long gone, we've gone home to be with the Lord, that we've built a firm foundation, something that people can take the ideas, people can take maybe the products, the books, whatever you've created, and it can last way beyond you. And at times we need to put systems and infrastructure and different things in place to make that an actual reality. So when we're thinking through legacy, another item that came up as I was thinking about this, as I was writing this particular podcast, I thought on what's included in our legacy. So what's included in our legacy? We have to think through that. There's many things that are included within our business. There's many things that are included in what we do that talks about our legacy. And parts of those things are wealth. And that's the given. That's what everyone thinks of when they think of legacy, and what we're doing is wealth. The money, the inheritance. But we leave a lot more to our children and our children's children when we're thinking about legacy. I know last episode we talked about different aspects of woundedness and how that is seen in our voice. And when we're wounded, we can bleed over everyone engaging with us in our platforms. And in that same respect, when you are wounded or you have these different things that you're dealing with, that also can be left in legacy as well. So we have to be very careful. And that's why we need to continue to seek the voice of God, seek the heart of God, so that we can receive our complete and total healing, and we can be like Christ as building up the fruit of the Spirit and different things in our lives. So what's included in our legacy? Like I said, wealth. And wealth can be seen monetarily, but it can also be seen in other aspects as well. To me, everything I'm getting ready to mention is part of wealth. But in addition to wealth, we can have legacy in relationships. We can model for our children and those around us healthy relationships. We can build relationships in our lives and through our business that can be a blessing to us in years and years and years to come. And a lot of times people don't think relationally that there's an inheritance to be had, or there's a legacy that you can live. But what we have to understand is that our parents teach us, and we teach other individuals. We teach those around us. We teach our children and things like that. And if our ability to handle and maintain and have fruitful relationships is not there, we're passing that down to those around us. We're exemplifying that in our character. So those are things that we need to practice, the fruit of the Spirit, as I said, and practice the love of God, essentially, when it comes to relationships. Next, another thing included in your legacy are spiritual disciplines. Spiritual disciplines. So spiritual disciplines, there's a great book about spiritual disciplines by Robert Foster. I'll put a link in the show notes concerning it, but it's something that I teach other individuals, and something that I've looked at and lived by. But spiritual disciplines, how you live as a mature Christian, how your prayer life, your Bible study, reading the Word, praise and worship of God, sitting in the presence of God. All these different things are things that are spiritual disciplines. They are things that don't make us better Christians, but they do make us better Christians, I would say, because we can't turn a discipline into a ritual and get over into some other things that are not of God. But what we do have to realize is that the disciplines are for our building up, our edification. So we do them because they are good and because they help us, help inform us to get closer to the heart of God when it comes to our Christian walk. So spiritual disciplines are good. That book I just mentioned is really good as well. But us having strong spiritual disciplines in our business, in our family, and all these different things are things that we're building a legacy. We're actually building culture. So you can look at those things as cultural too. And that's the next thing I was going to mention. Culture and traditions, they go hand in hand. So there are certain cultures, there are certain traditions that you might have in your family, in your business even. You guys know I wrote the book, Making God Our CEO, and developing the culture of God in your business. And with that particular book, I talk about how you can have a culture of God in your actual business. Right now, at the time of this recording, the book has not been printed yet, but it will be printed in the next couple months. So I'll put the link in the show notes once that is available. But when we're talking about culture and building a culture of God in our business, it's something that we develop through our core values. We develop through our practices, how we treat everyone that engages with us, from employees to customers to whomever that engages with us in our business or in our ministry. We develop a culture, which is a set of values that everyone that's engaging in what we do in our platform, they respond to. That is part of your legacy. We're trying to build these organizations, these businesses, these ministries that last a lifetime and beyond a lifetime, I should say. And how we do that is having the infrastructure, and within that infrastructure, having our cultures, having our culture, having our core values, having what the business stands for, what the main purpose, what the main goals are, and having that be non-negotiable, and having that be God-breathed. Even if your business is not overtly Christian, you can still have Christian principles that run throughout it. You guys know we talked about this at length when we first started this podcast. So you would find that in some of the very, very, very first episodes of the podcast. So go back and review those things so you can kind of get a heart for what I'm talking about. So these are things that are included in our legacy. We said wealth, of course, relationships, spiritual disciplines, culture and traditions. Next, your skill set. And this kind of goes for family in your life, and also in your business, the way you teach and train your employees, the way you educate possibly your customer base, those in your audience. The skill set, you can think of this within your family. If you come from a long line of ministry leaders, a long line of business owners, there's a skill set, a generational blessing that comes into play when we that God has put into place for us. For there's a generational anointing, all these things for different areas. It's key. If you don't have an organization, a business, or anything that you're running or doing, it's key to go back and look over your life, look over your family history. Which things have over in generations have people always done? Have they always been teachers? Have they always been ministers? Have they always been doctors? What have people always done in your family line? And that kind of gives you a hint, a clue as to what kind of generational anointings travel down your bloodline. Now we do this. I have a teaching with my other brand in and around generational bondage and things like that, and have some books and things that talk about that. But it's the same principle in reverse when we're talking about generational iniquity, curses, bondages, and things like that. There's certain bondages and things that travel across bloodlines. And in that same respect, as we pray into the generational blessings, we also can pray into and really have an understanding of the generational bondages. And we need to be able to stand against the enemy for those things traveling down our bloodlines, and put a stop to them. Be the Moseses in our family lines to stop what the enemy meant for harm for all different members in our family. So that was a long definition in and around just skill set. But going back to skill set, there's certain things that we know how to do that is included in our legacy. Don't let those things die. So a lot of times to have legacy maintained, there needs to be some type of documentation. Why? Because you're not going to be there forever. So what you document is what gets maintained. What you document is what gets remembered. What you document is what people know. Like we have documents, even the country here in the United States, the Constitution, all these different things are documents of how things need to go, how things need to be ran. So that is one of the very first things. So I always encourage people, especially within the mastery group, our leadership group there, and in our collective group, our free leadership group, I always encourage them to document their processes, document the things that they do and how they do them. So at minimum, when you bring someone else into your organization, your business, what have you, they'll be able to at least mirror the things that you've already been doing and possibly improve on them. But more often than not, you have individuals that start businesses and they run them like side hustles. So if you're running your business like a side hustle, you're not thinking long term. You're not thinking long range. You're not thinking infrastructure. You're not thinking documenting workflows and processes, standard operating procedures, and all these different things that every business that's worth its salt has a majority of these things already in place, especially if it's a business that's trying to last more than a year. Right? These are things that you need processes and procedures because it's an organization. And that's one of the key things that is needed to help people to be able to move and come into agreement with what your organization represents. So documentation, when we're talking about legacy, is key. You might not have thought I was going to say that. You might have thought I was going to think through all the woo-woo type things in regards to legacy and all this, but some of it is very, very practical, and there's practical things that we're not doing. So there's a lot of assortment of tools. If you just do a Google search on tools to document processes, workflows, and things like that, you'll have a bunch of things come up, programs, systems, all different types of things that can help you in that. So before I move to our next topic, talking about what the foundation of legacy is, I do want to mention our free Facebook group, our Kingdom Business Leadership Collective group on Facebook. You can join that absolutely free and get exclusive content and find there a community of like-minded individuals who you can talk to about your business challenges, your business breakthroughs, get encouragement, get advice, all these different things. So be sure to click the link in the show notes, or you can search Kingdom Business Leadership Collective on Facebook and it should come right up. You'll just be asked a couple of questions there around your business and what your goals are and things like that, challenges, and we'll let you write in the group. We also request your email so that we can keep in contact with you. So definitely check us out there. You will be blessed. Okay, so let's move on. What is the foundation of our legacy? So what's the foundation of our legacy? We have to have an understanding that the foundation, we talked about a few things here just a moment ago, but knowledge, wisdom, and revelation are the foundation of building legacy. And that's the foundation for a lot of things in God. But that's one of the foundational principles. And when we're building legacy, we have to have knowledge, wisdom, and revelation in and around the things of God, what He's called us to do, what He's telling us to do. And then also we have to have a knowledge and understanding that He wants us to be blessed so that we can be a blessing. He wants us to be blessed so that we can be a blessing. And that's relationally, spiritually, monetarily. So legacy is really not just for us, but it's for those more so after us. Like, it's good when we're creating it, but it's even better for those that can come in line with it, engage with it after we are long gone. And we think in the concept of children and children's children and things like that, generations, but in your business, people that will come after you, maybe your family holds the business and has a piece of ownership in the business, but there's other people that will run it, that will be executive directors, that will be CEOs, but the heart of what you started is still there. So they're still impacting people and what they're doing. So that gives you a different way of almost a different paradigm when you're thinking through your business. And that's what we try to do here on this particular podcast. I know I do a lot of technical training and things like that on some of the other platforms in the Facebook group and the mastery group and the membership group and all those things. But here on the podcast, I just want to give you a more of the mindset side of what we do as kingdom entrepreneurs, kingdom builders, and this whole prophetic and apostolic vein that we're in. So legacy is not just for us, but those after us. Through legacy, we prove that it can be done, whatever your it is. Through legacy, we prove that it can be done. We blaze the trail for other individuals. So for some of you, you might be first generation entrepreneurs or first generation ministry leaders or organizational leaders within your family. So you're finding out a lot of things because you don't know what you don't know. So you're learning as you go. But for the next person, it's going to be that much easier because they have your example. And I have that point here. You're creating a blueprint. You're creating a blueprint for those individuals that are to come. We know that a blueprint, when you're building a house or you're building anything, blueprint kind of gives you an estimation or tells you what this thing ought to look like. It gives you the dimensions. It gives you how big certain things are going to be. But even with the blueprint, once you start building, there might be some tweaks that you have to make, and that's going to happen. But how much easier is it to build the house if you have a blueprint? If you don't have a blueprint, you're making all these mistakes and you're like, oh my gosh, if I would have just thought this through or had an example to look at, I wouldn't have made all these mistakes. I'm learning as I'm going, and you're building and you're tearing down and building and tearing it down again because you didn't have a blueprint that will help you so that you knew how to measure things, and you knew these idiosyncrasy things, these small things that you would not have known unless you have actually done it. So that's another paradigm shift that we need to have in knowing the foundation of our legacy, that we're proving it can be done, blazing the trail for others. We're actually creating the blueprint for those to come for us. So like me, with everything that I'm doing, I really believe those after me, my children, whoever take the reins of what I'm doing right now, I know that they're not going to make some of the same mistakes because they're going to have my blueprint. Another way of saying that is my ceiling is going to be their floor. So we need to think in terms of our ceiling should always be someone else's floor. And if you just picture that in our mind, I know that's been said before, but wherever we go to, that should be where other individuals will start. And that's really food for thought. If you think through that, if you work, and that needs to be part of our motivation, part of our why for why we're doing what we're doing. So keep moving forward with legacy and let that legacy be your motivation. In the next couple episodes, we're going to talk some about motivation and things like that, because at the recording of this, we are towards the end of the year, and it's goal setting time for me and hopefully for you as well. So we need that motivation to move into this last quarter of the year and things like that. So I do appreciate you guys. I'm going to go ahead and let you listen to this insert that we have here about hearing the voice of God for your business. It's something I want to give as a free gift to you, because what we do know about business, especially as kingdom entrepreneurs, hearing the voice of God is key and it is essential. So go ahead and listen to that. And then when I come back, I'll have some concluding thoughts. As a kingdom business owner, coach, author, influencer, or any other service provider, you need to be able to hear the voice of God. We have the Spirit of God on the inside of us, and He's there to help lead us and guide us in all things. Your ability to hear the voice of God is your biggest differentiator. We are actually called to build with God. We are prophetic architects. Knowing and understanding how God speaks to you is essential to your life as a kingdom business owner. You need to be able to hear God's voice clearly for yourself and for your business. This is why I created the Hearing the Voice of God for Your Business free masterclass. In this masterclass, we discussed how to remove the noise, which actually stops you from hearing God's voice clearly, the 4 different ways God's voice sounds. We term this as God languages, how to maintain clarity in hearing God's voice. We also talk about barriers to hearing God's voice, how to ask God for confirmation of what you feel like you are hearing. We discussed the role of the prophet and prophetic words in relationship to hearing God's voice. And then we go further to talk about how to receive and steward a prophetic word. You need this masterclass. It includes 1 video, 3 guides, and 1 checklist. This masterclass is usually $47, but now we have it for $0, free $99. So take the time to invest in yourself and get this free masterclass package. You can get it by clicking the link in the show notes or you can go straight to our website, thekbln.com. Again, that website is thekbln.com. So we are back. The last thing I wanted to tell you, we've talked a lot in these few moments about legacy, and I think they're all really good things. We've talked about how to serve. We serve a God of legacy, what it is, leaving an inheritance, what legacy actually includes, and then we talked about what legacy's foundation is. But one thing that I want to leave you with before I go is just get it in your heart not to sacrifice legacy for your comfort. Business is not the easiest thing in the world. It has its ups and downs. It has its challenges, but we should never be satisfied with being comfortable, because the minute we get comfortable, we automatically sacrifice what God is attempting to do in our lives through stretching us to go further, to go higher, to go deeper in the things that He's calling us to do. We have to not sacrifice legacy for our comfort. We have to remember why we're doing what we're doing. And in that remembering, it helps us to keep moving forward. So love you guys. I appreciate you listening. Stay tuned for some of the next installments of some of the episodes that we have coming up. As I said, in past episodes, we will be beginning to have episodes where we will be interviewing entrepreneurs, hearing their stories and how they got to where they are and things of that nature. So we appreciate you, and click all the things that we put in the show notes in regards to some of the resources that we have available. And I look to see you in our Facebook group and on the next episode. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to the Kingdom Business Leadership Podcast. To continue the conversation on growing your kingdom business or to join the Kingdom Business Leadership Network, head over to our website at thekbln.com, or you can find us on Facebook. To connect, text GodsCEO to 77948.